Welcome to Friday's Premier League Today. What a weekend we have to preview. As Old Trafford prepares for the derby of all derbies, United versus City, Jose versus Pep, second versus first.
It's all about the derby. I don't care what they say. I don't care who says it as well.
Sunday's a big day on Mersyside too, as free-scoring Liverpool look to spoil new Everton manager Sam Allardyce's first taste of the friendly derby.
He's definitely got the experience of Premiership football. He knows what he's doing.
We'll also look at the champions Chelsea, quietly working their way back into the title mix-up, and a Tottenham side on the slide and already conceding their chances have gone. Huge weekend of football, not just significant for the top of the table, but also big for those teams at the bottom. And for two of the surprise success stories of the season, Burnley and Watford play each other. Palace take on Bournemouth. It's Huddersfield against Brighton. Swansea, West Brom. In the evening kickoff, Newcastle against Leicester. But it is all a build-up to what about that for a Super Sunday. Liverpool, Everton, followed by Manchester United against Manchester City. And here's how the table looks. Swansea City now rock bottom. West Ham and Crystal Palace a point ahead of them, but still inside the bottom three. And then a 3-point gap to West Brom in 17th. Manchester City, as we know, are leading the way. An 8-point gap to Manchester United. Will it be 8 points? Will it be 11? Will it be 5 after this weekend's matches? Chelsea in third place, looking to close the gap themselves. And Liverpool inside the top 4. Arsenal in 5th. Well, of course, it's all about those two huge derbies dominating the agenda. We'll be hearing from all the press conferences, and the managers will be having their say ahead of a super weekend of football.
For years, United ruled England, Kings and Manchester.
But then things changed. It was our turn.
Not quite yet. When we come together, history is made.
2012, we made our mark. Then the greatest moment in Premier League history. Champions of England. Who's the noisy neighbour now?
Sir Alex had his final say. 20 times.
Manuel made it happen again.
Now,
we've got the best manager in the world.
A special one.
2 champion managers.
With one target.
It is the biggest Manchester derby in years. We're all looking forward to it here in the studio. Ian Wright is here, as always, on a Friday. And we're joined by Miguel Delaney. And from a very chilly, or at least it looks that way, Old Trafford, Owen Hargreaves is with us. Owen, you were part of the Manchester City squad in 2012 for that hugely important game in April that eventually led to Manchester City winning the title. Is this the biggest one since then?
Well, I think it feels like it. It's a shame that the league is probably not a little bit closer. I mean, Manchester United have had a very good season, but Manchester City have just been that good, that dominant, and obviously this is going to be a title decider really already in December. And I think for Manchester United, it's more of a must-win. I mean, Manchester City have been absolutely exceptional all season, and I think as good as they are with the lead that they have, they'll come here to win this game and play in the same fashion.
Oh, do you not think that with the fact that Man United are, was it 8 points behind? I think it's a must-win for United. Do you think that he will try and play, I don't know, a more expansive way? Will he attack them? Because they need attacking City.
No, Righty, no way. Look, I mean, even against Watford and against Arsenal, they had less possession than both of those teams. This is going to suit Mourinho down to the ground. Manchester City
even
will
at
dominate.
home?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, look, they had less possession than Watford, even though they won the game comfortably. Against Arsenal, they won the game comfortably.
Yeah.
I think he'll set up his team in terms of allowing City to have the ball. I think the only issue for Mourinho, I think his team picks itself, is obviously Pogba's going to be a big miss.
Yeah.
Does he sacrifice one of those three attacking front three that have been so exceptional? Because even against Arsenal and Watford, they were outnumbered in midfield. He needs another body in there. City, the best in the Premier League, one of the best in Europe at keeping the ball. So he's going to need another body in there. But I think United have shown they can be devastating on the counter-attack. They're the best team in the Premier League on set pieces. Mourinho's recipe already for the game, I think, is going to be clear for everyone. They'll get chances against City. The question is, will they be able to take them?
Lingard has to play, surely.
Well, I think Lingard will play, but maybe not as high up as he has this, because he'll have to play in midfield a little bit, give a bit of protection, because they've been outnumbered in midfield. That's why they haven't had as much possession against, as I said, Watford and Arsenal. I think Jesse will play a bit deeper, maybe on the deepest midfielder, whether that's Fernandinho, and then he'll look to break from there. And I think he's been terrific. Martial looks a different player, rather than just playing on the left-hand side, playing more central. And I think that front three, with the space to counter-attack against City, who will give them chances, you know, it could be the perfect setup for Mourinho.
Is that the only way for Manchester United to beat City? Is it the only way for any team to take on this City side and try and get a result against them?
Well, no, Mourinho will play that way. We saw already Shakhtar Donetsk this season at the Etihad. They almost tried to out-football Manchester City. And if they would have had a strong centre-forward on the pitch, they might have been able to do that. They played some terrific football up to the box. Even this game midweek in the Champions League where they beat Manchester City, you know, they match them in almost every level, you know, try to create plenty of chances as well. So I think you can get at Manchester City, but you have to be, you know, comfortable playing that way. I think Mourinho won't want his team to be that open. I think he'll want them to be defensively stronger. I think the back three with Lindelof and Smalling Rojo is very strong. They look good together. Best goalkeeper in the world in De Gea. The wing-backs Valencia and Young have been strong as well. So I think the midfield battle is the most important one. Can they get up the pitch, and when they get opportunities, can they take them? That's going to be the recipe for Mourinho.
Owen, as well, do you feel, with the height advantage that Man United have, they're a much bigger team, do you feel that this is one where Mourinho the set pieces, will Fellaini be involved?
Well, it looks like he's probably really the only player that could probably fill in that role. Obviously, they don't have a ton of depth in central midfield. You're right, Righty. I mean, height is a big thing for Mourinho. He loves a big physical presence. Even the two young boys that came on, Tuanzebe and McTominay, midweek in the Champions League, young boys, but big physical presence as well. And I said before, most goals on set pieces. Mourinho will be looking to that as well. But that physical advantage is good, but you need to find a way to have a bit of possession, get up the pitch and get corners, get free kicks. And I think if City score early here at Old Trafford, you know, the game could literally be anything, because United are going to have to open up, and that could make it really difficult for them.
Owen, City's scoring has dropped off in the last weeks. They've won 3 games late on, or 4 games with Feyenoord as well. How much do you think that is down to a bit of a lull with them, or basically opposition sides sitting deep? What's kind of the key in that sense?
Well, I think Manchester City, as good as they are, you know, they love to keep the ball. Everybody loves to come short. I think that's why Sané, Sterling are so brilliant in the team. Gabriel Jesus, you know, they like to run in behind, and I think they have that dynamic. But De Bruyne and Silva, they'll pull the strings in midfield. Look, everybody sits deep on City, and I think to stop that, you just need midfield runners. You need forward passing, forward runners, and I think they'll get that in this game. I think Guardiola, this is a big moment for him. Obviously, last season didn't go to plan, but he'll come to Old Trafford looking to play that same beautiful football, but have an edge to it as well. Last season, they were poor in their own box, conceding goals and not clinical enough in taking chances. This season, they're a different team, you know, not conceding as many goals. Ederson in goal has been terrific as well, and up front, virtually every player is scoring goals. I mean, I think there's probably 4 or 5, almost with 10 goals. So I think they've been clinical in both boxes, and I'm sure he'll look to come into this game at Old Trafford, a place that he respects so much, and try and put on not only a good performance, but a dominant performance to show everybody, you know, how good a manager he is.
I know, and we know broadly what Pep Guardiola is going to do. As you said, he wants to play beautiful football, he wants to play expansive football, but we also know that he will make these small tactical changes in more or less every game. What does he do in this one, particularly to counteract Manchester United?
Well, I think his biggest focus, I mean, I'm sure defensively, he'll try and not pick on someone, but he'll keep an eye on someone. I think they'll maybe allow Chris Smalling to be the one to maybe play out the back. Lindelof is, you know, as good as he's been in the last few games, playing in the back three. He didn't have the best start to his Premier League this season with Manchester United, so maybe defensively they can look to maybe get at him. but he, as you said, he always has a game plan. And I think with Manchester United, as good as they've been in the last few games, with the wing backs in the back three and the front three playing very close together, he's going to have to find a way to keep an eye on Martial, because I think he's been absolutely incredible, kind of rotating all over the pitch as an attacker. His intelligence and awareness of where to be in his running ability is able to get Manchester United up the pitch. So I think he'll probably have a game plan for Martial, who's been so effective in that attacking role.
Owen, on the media side, we've obviously given Guardiola and City so much praise this season, and there's all this talk about one of the best attacking sides ever in Premier League history. As a player, as an opposition player, would that have particularly kind of irritated you going into a game like this? Would have kind of, you know, offered further motivation to prove, well, hang on, I imagine it was something that Ferguson played on.
Well, I think with the utmost respect to right, he knows, in other games, you know, every game's big, but as a player, you know, I think this is the game where the best players rise up. This is where the best players want to show their ability against the best team in the Premier League currently in Manchester City, one of the most iconic managers we've had in the last 10 years, and Pep Guardiola, who seems to be trying to find a way to revolutionise the game every season. As a player, you'll want to come into this game and prove a point to everybody that Manchester United can compete with Manchester City and they can find a way to beat them. So as a player, I think you need to... This is an opportunity to rise up. It's a challenge, and I think any player that loves the game as much as, say, a righty or myself, this is an opportunity to be at your absolute best and try and find a way to make this Premier League season a little bit closer for everybody.
Owen, I think I'm just going for City, because if Pogba was playing, who I'd love to have seen in this midfield amongst these guys, I'm going to go for City. Who are you going for, my friend?
It's a tough call, obviously.
Of course it is, and that's why I put you on the spot there.
Look, I mean, it's impossible. You know, I think City are favourites, and I think if they score early, the game could end up being, you know, I think there'll be plenty of goals in it, to just say it that way. I think Mourinho finds a way in these games to make it interesting. I think he'll set up tactically to frustrate, and I think with the front three playing closer together, Lukaku, Martial and Lingard, I think they'll pose Manchester City problems. But I think it's going to be a score draw. I think 2-2. Going to be a terrific game with plenty of goals in it.
Nice. Owen, thank you so much for joining us. Good to talk to you.
You're the best, though.
Thanks, guys.
And let's get some thoughts now from inside both camps. Marcus Rocco and Vincent Kompany up next.
I know managers love to downplay it. No, it's not about the derby, it's about the league and stuff. I think it's rubbish. It's all about the derby. I don't care what they say. I don't care who says it as well. It's a special game. It means a lot more to the people in Manchester than any other game, and therefore it should mean a lot more to the players as well.
Creo que este año es diferente en los años anteriores que me ha tocado.
You can definitely feel it, and it's different to how it was last season. Perhaps because of the positions that we were both in the table. Both teams are coming into good form, so obviously it's a big. Everyone's talking about it around the city.
Y creo que eso motiva a la gente a que esperen el partido del domingo con muchas ganas.
If you're physically able to do 110% for every other game, you'll do 120%. It's not the managers who decide this, it's the psychology of the players. That's how we're wired. It's normal.
Vincent Kompany, absolutely clear. It is all about the derby. In terms of this one, we spoke to Owen about it earlier on, and he made that comparison with 2012. I suppose the question here is, Manchester City closed down a gap of 8 points in 6 games. Manchester United, even if it stays at 8 points, have got 22 games to be able to recoup the difference. So is it a must-win game for them?
Yeah, it is, but because you do need to, I believe, try to get into that deficit. You need to start to put some doubt into City's mind. I think that the teams that have tried to do that in the last few games, especially at home, I don't think it's anything to do with City playing badly or bad form. I think that the people have come to City and have realised how resolutely they have to defend. And I think that City themselves, in this game, I don't think it's a bad thing if they draw the game. But I don't think that it's one that if Man United could beat them, I think it really opens it up. I think it is a must-win game, and that's why I'm hoping that Mourinho, I know Owen says he won't, will go for it a bit or something. I want to see how City react if they lose this game.
However, for Manchester United and for Jose Mourinho, as Owen was saying, and as you've said, as much as you want to see it, it's unlikely that that's how he's going to approach that game. City, though, we know what they're going to do. What do you think that Manchester United do to stop City, given that their attacking moves start so far back, even really from Edison?
Yeah, well, I mean, so the thing is, the last 3 games have shown, given that City, I think, had an average of over 3 goals a game in their first 12 matches, last 3, only 2 goals a game. But they were kind of quite in there. I think that was because, basically, Huddersfield, West Ham and Southampton all sat back as deep as possible, congested the space, and that's pretty much the only kind of proven way to at least kind of frustrate them. And who's the best at exactly that approach? In fact, who probably originated it against kind of Guardiola teams when he was at Inter with Barcelona? It was Mourinho. So I think it would take for Mourinho himself to come up with something that we can't really imagine, to do something different.
The only thing that could make your wish come true this Christmas, Ian, is that Mourinho has got it in him to play a more expansive style of football. He will point to the number of goals he scored with Real Madrid, point to the start to the season, particularly in the times at Chelsea. And he might also point to the game against Arsenal last weekend, where although they ceded possession to Arsenal and actually were almost at the bottom in terms of possession last weekend, and where City were right at the top, they did have the better of the chances and actually won their game more comfortably than City won theirs against West Ham.
I think a lot's got to be said for the fact that Man United did concede a lot of their possession to Arsenal because they were 2 up. You don't continually go for a game when you're 2 up. I still don't believe that they would be Man United would be comfortable with the amount of chances that Arsenal got, and the goalkeeper, like we said, made record amount of saves. But I feel that if Pogba was playing in the game, maybe it might have been more of an offensive kind of vibe about it. But we saw, like, even with that Chelsea side, that was some of the most scintillating football I've seen from any Chelsea side. And then they shut up shop at the second half of the season. Mourinho's got he had the players to do it then. Whether or not without Pogba he's got the players to really do that now, I'm not sure. But, like, I still believe that City and the way they keep the ball in the midfield and the potency of what they've got up front are going to be very, very dangerous to United. But when United did break, and you look at Pogba, he was look at how easily he beats Koscielny there with his skill and the way they went forward. Jesse Lingard was brilliant in that game. And I thought Lukaku done well in that game holding up. They're going to have to do that same kind of thing against City, so they can get the ball off of them and attack them quick enough.
For Manchester City, though, as we say, it wasn't as comfortable a win, or it's certainly not as comfortable a scoreline for them against West Ham at the weekend as it was for Man United against Arsenal. But as you asked Owen a little bit earlier on, Manchester City and this ability to get these late winners, is that a positive or a negative from your point of view?
I think it's a positive because I think with these winners, they know completely what they're doing. There was never any panic. It was still so they stuck to the plan. Okay, Guardiola changed things to make it happen. But there was such a confidence in that. There was never... I mean, to be honest, I think I said it last week, it actually reminds me, and United fans won't like this, but with the way the siege builds, with a sense of inevitability, it's the closest thing that's reminded me to Alex Ferguson's United. I remember, like, in '99...
Pep's talked about Fergie time, haven't
yeah,
we?
exactly, yeah.
And
so I would see it as a real positive in that sense.
Yeah, and that ability, and the belief in themselves, Ian, that they can keep doing what they're doing. How hard is it to keep your patience with that sort of build-up play and not to do the more typically maybe just British Premier League thing?
Pump it in there, like you could say, like Man United would do with a Fellaini. But what they've got is what we saw, especially with that last goal. If you're going to have to be very good to be able to give Kevin De Bruyne 2 yards of space anywhere around that area, and not think that you're going to get punished for that. When you looked at that goal what Silva scored, he's put a ball into an area where Silva then adjusted himself to it. That's how good the ball is. And the point I'm trying to make is how good De Bruyne is. No matter how tight and how resolute you are in defence, they've got players who will find a way, whether it's Silva or De Bruyne, and they'll keep going to the end because they will be able to, with even a yard of space, be able to put in balls of that quality and score.
Meanwhile, as you pointed out, Manchester United missing Paul Pogba, who potentially could do something, not the same kind of play, but he could do that for Manchester United. How frustrating is it for United, for Jose Mourinho, that he's not available for this game because of a red card?
Well, I think that you can't say that the players themselves, it would be like me going into a game with Dennis Bergkamp missing. You do feel like something is, you've lost something from your game. And I was speaking to my mate on the way in today, and we was talking about the red card, and I think that there'll be just as much talk about if it were just a yellow as much as the fact that it was a red, because it was a really strange scene in respect of the way that the tackle happened and Bellerin's leg, and it was. There's so many ways you can talk about why it could have been a yellow, but I'm digressing. The fact is, for a player of that caliber to be missing this kind of game, it's sad for everybody, because I wanted to see him playing in this kind of environment.
Particularly because we heard him say last week on this programme that he was saying that the more defensive style hadn't worked for them well enough, and that maybe it was time for a change. Can they do that without Pogba? Does it limit Mourinho's options?
I don't think so, because I think the same link isn't there. And I wonder as well, I was at the Watford game, the one they won 4-2, and the one thing I've been thinking of throughout this, Pogba makes United so much better kind of going forward, gives United the extra dimension. But I don't know where you stand in this argument that his attacking ability means actually that United can't be as sturdy when he's on the pitch. And even at the Arsenal game, it was actually when he went, I know Mourinho would have locked up anyway, but because they don't have kind of Pogba's willingness to get forward, he can shut up a bit more actually when Pogba's not on the pitch.
Yeah, it is, but then you do lose that creativity. And I've got to say, even with Herrera, when he did come in, and he was brilliant. He was defending well. And the thing what I like with Herrera is that when he does get the ball, he has got the composure and the technical ability to be able to find his own players. It's not Pogba, but he has got players who can link the play with the forwards. I think Lukaku's got a big role to play as well for me tomorrow. He always has, but tomorrow he has got...
We'll talk a bit more about Lukaku, but I wanted to concentrate on the point you made about Herrera, because we saw that in September in 2016, that he made the difference at half-time.
Well, I just think that he's going to have to put in this kind of performance. When you watch him, he's close to people, he's very tenacious. But once he does get on the ball, as we'll see, he gets himself in areas like this, and he's got the ability to do things like that. Look, see, that's what you want. You don't want somebody who's just going to break up. This is brilliant play from him. Look at him. But this is Claudio Bravo. The fact is, he recognises it. He can see the danger. You can see it here. Watch this block. Brilliant stuff. It's the kind of thing that I feel he's going to be needing to do tomorrow. It's going to be interesting to see if he stays in and around De Bruyne to try and see if he can stop him playing, because, like I said, he only needs a yard of space, De Bruyne, to really hurt you.
I should have said he made a difference, not the difference, because of course they did actually lose the game. As far as Kevin De Bruyne is concerned, you talked about him. Is that how... When you set up defensively against Manchester City, sometimes if you set up defensively, you're trying to stop a player. With Manchester City, you might go, well, we'll start with the front line, and then maybe we'll start with De Bruyne and Silva, and we'll stop them. Pep Guardiola has confirmed that David Silva will play in this game. And then you think, well, actually, even their defenders are looking to pass the ball forward. And then you say, well, even their goalkeeper is looking to start a move right from the back. So is it about a team defensive performance as opposed to targeting individuals?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because you have to be switched on at every moment, because you look at somebody like De Bruyne, even if he drops deep, he can still hurt you. He'll get the ball and he'll hurt you with it. I saw Otamendi coming through the other day as well, and he's another one who, he passes great passes straight into the midfield, which couldn't see that. That's the kind of space I'm talking about. That kind of space, you just have to be tighter on him. And that's what Man United will recognise. Look at this, there's not much space.
Isn't the point with De Bruyne that even without space,
well,
he can either find it or two do that?
That's got to say danger. You see, just that there is danger, because he's in so much space, something's going to happen. And this pass here was just fantastic. That's amazing. And you're thinking to yourself, there's not many players that can do that. And if you, no matter how long you hold them out for, at some stage he's going to get those 2 yards of space. Again, look at, even if they're tight, as against Arsenal, it doesn't make no difference. Look at that. That just looks like danger. Look. And then look what happens if you give him 2 yards of space. So are you going to be able to do that for the whole game? At some stage he's going to be free. Then he's going to be free to hit Sane or Sterling or Jesus. It's just it's a massive task.
Can you go tight on Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva?
But then this thing, even if you go tight on those two, look who else is there. I mean, I've done a piece on this for The Independent today, but I can't think of a side, even all the great attacking sides, and this isn't to say that City are necessarily better than those teams, but even the great sides you were in, the great Uniteds, they kind of 4 or 5 obvious players that kind of, the attack we built around. With City, it's kind of 6 or 7 points of attack all the time.
So that means you're looking for... How many people do you need to have an off day for City to not play well? If two of them have an off day, and as long as it's not De Bruyne or Silva, even if that's the case, and you can still know in 90 minutes, Kels, they're going to be able to do something special to get somebody else to score or create a chance. So it's difficult to stop them.
And as you said, a huge game for Romelu Lukaku. If Manchester United are going to rely on having very few opportunities, he needs to be as sharp.
He just needs to be more clinical about it. I think his hold-up play is getting better. He's starting to recognise it now because he's playing with quality players. But without Pogba especially, who seems to really get him really moving and working, I just feel that he just needs to maybe take that clinical chance, and then his confidence will grow like it was at the start of the season.
At the other end of the pitch, of course, they have a goalkeeper who performed miracles against Arsenal last weekend. The question was going to be, can he do it again? But is there any suggestion he can't do it again?
I mean, he's so reliable. I can't remember the last mistake he made. I was surprised, actually. I think this Ballon d'Or had him as only the 7th best keeper in the world, which is amazing. But it's a mixture of kind of the absolute reliability, but with the spectacular as well.
And you know what as well, Mick? It's the fact that he doesn't really... That is amazing. Them two saves are amazing. He doesn't make too much... He's calm.
Yeah.
His demeanour doesn't change whether he's under pressure or if he's not under pressure. If you watch him, he's exactly the same. Apart from there, where he seems to be very, very...
enthusiastic.
Very, very enthusiastic. But he's always calm. And we talk about Joe Hart in the tunnel, England. You won't see him that... et up. He's calm. And I think that's very important for a goalie.
And they're going to have to get past the City, well, not get past the City defence, but get past the waves of City attack in order to be able to break through Manchester United. For United, and with the set pieces being one of their greatest threat, the importance of Lukaku, would you also be bringing Fellaini into the equation there as well?
Yeah, I mean, and we saw last week with West Ham, it's one thing that City might be susceptible to, but I suppose the key to that is you have to actually get the ball enough to get the set pieces in the first place.
Yeah.
So in case of being particularly ruthless on set pieces, but yeah, completely. And this is I think one of the reasons why a Mourinho team, even beyond his own management, could be kind of suited to just frustrate and maybe beating City, because we already know the amount of physically hulking players he's got in that team. They've got so many +6 footers in there.
There's no one in the City team that I look at, maybe Mangal, I'm not sure, that could deal with his presence, deal with Fellaini's presence if he does play. And it is a weapon that he has, just in case it's not going too well. If he can hold them out, which I don't think they can, but he's still got someone like Fellaini to come on, it's potency.
There's going to be a very special atmosphere around training ahead of this match, both for Manchester City and for Manchester United. And Pep Guardiola has been talking about being part of such a big occasion.
Going to Old Trafford is a pleasure. So I said many times in Barcelona and Bayern Munich, and now here, I am a manager to play this kind of games. Of course, I love to play a lot of games, but play Champions League and play these kind of games in the bigger stages, in important games, is fascinating for us. That's the reason why we're here, and I want to enjoy it, and I will enjoy it, definitely, to prepare the game, to arrive. I am looking forward to arrive. Would like to play tomorrow or in few hours. So I love to be there, to be part of there, because it's just a game. I took that moment like a game to enjoy what we can do to beat them, and after that, shake hands, improve what we have not good, enjoy what it was a good game, and prepare the next one.
Jose Mourinho is currently speaking to the media. We'll be hearing from him a bit later on. In terms of their head-to-heads, 19 games they've played. Mourinho's only won 4 of them. Guardiola won twice as many. But interesting to hear him talk about the fact that he looks forward to these games. Is that the difference between good and great, that the great managers, the great players grow under the pressure?
Because that's where you are going to be judged. You're going to be judged in the big games against big players, and that's why you want your teams to do well. And as much as people people are saying that they haven't been playing well because of like how Huddersfield and how West Ham and Southampton played, but they got that done. I don't think that's a slight on them. I think it's actually, you have to give them credit for what they've done, and that's why he was so happy, because then when you get confidence from those games, you can go into these games with confidence, and the big players and the big managers know. And I tell you, if City win it or if United win it, there'll be a lot of real celebration, because they know it's a big game and it's a good one to win.
We haven't seen the spikiness between these two, really, certainly not on the scale of when they were at Real Madrid and Barcelona at the same time. That hasn't really come to the fore. We had Mourinho saying this week, oh, Guardiola says his players aren't available, but they're going to play, and David Silva does play, but nothing nothing big.
No, that's very mild considering what we used to see between them. I do wonder whether that's because of the gap, and also, I suppose, because of the amount of other managers involved. I mean, Mourinho seems to have been spikier with Conte this season, and a little bit maybe with Klopp. But you do wonder whether Mourinho wants to attack from a position maybe more strengthy when they're 8 points behind.
Yeah.
But in terms of how Guardiola relishes it, I think he must really look forward to the challenge of kind of taking on these top guys and figuring out how to do something different, how to beat them, how to kind of second guess them.
Yeah, but the thing is, the way he plays, excuse me, he's not going to change anything. He's just going to put confidence into his players to do what you're doing and just go and beat United. I love that about the fact he's so confident in what he's doing and what his players are trying to do.
What do you think is the difference between Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola in terms of what they get out of their players and their teams? And we know the difference in style and ethos, but in terms of their relationship with their players, what is it?
I think that with Pep, you kind of feel like there's a certain, I feel like I would want to hug him and he'd be fine with that. You know, in the right situation.
Not for very long, though, because...
No, but, you know, but you could see the way he hugs them afterwards, and they've got a respectful kind of... Whereas Mourinho, you just feel like, I don't want to hug you, but I do respect you. But the fact is that I'd be more afraid of Pep for some reason. There's something about it.
Mersyside derby. We'll look ahead to Liverpool against Everton next.
Liverpool, a city iconic for its history, its architecture, and its culture. A people united by their love of football, but divided by their loyalties. Two colours reign supreme. Red, the passion, the heartbeat that keeps the city moving. Blue, the river, the lifeline, the soul. Now these two titans of English football face each other once more in a clash dominated by the desire for glory. Superstars created through flashes of brilliance. Legends written into history. Moments etched into memories. The mighty Reds versus the People's Club, the most local of local derbies. For the city, for the clubs, for the fans. Some games mean more than just points.
Always entertaining and often a spiky game, the Mersyside derby. Let's hear what the managers make of it ahead of Sam Allardyce's first Mersyside derby and Jurgen Klopp.
We know what we will get, if you want. That doesn't make it easier, to be honest, because all Sam Allardyce teams are difficult to play. That's no secret. So a lot of positive things are good in Park in the moment, and I have no problem with that. They can win all the games over the season, apart from the games against us. That's all it is.
This is two clubs in the city that are clashing together with great history that has an atmosphere that's, you know, unique to the city and unique in derby terms. So it's about us handling that pressure and about us handling that atmosphere, as well as handling a team that, you know, I have to admit, is probably in the best form it's been in since Jurgen arrived.
We all know that Everton is, if it's not top 6, it's a top 7 team then usually, and that makes it really difficult. It's a fantastic club.
As a manager of many years now, you can feel it when you come into a football club. You can feel if you're going in the right direction, and I feel that because the results have gone well, it's been a massive boost for me and the rest of the staff to settle in even quicker than we expected.
It's a derby and at its best, and I like it. And so far, how I realized it, there's a lot of respect between the two clubs, and I really like that, to be honest. If we don't, in the game, yes, still respect, but try everything to win it. Try everything.
I was listening to Danny Murphy talking about the build-up to derbies. He said when Gerard Houllier went into the club, he said the build-up was slightly tactical in the build-up to a derby, but mostly it was discipline. They worked on not giving away silly free kicks, on not putting hands in people's faces, not responding to the goading of the other players. How much of a factor is that?
Massive factor, because what you want to do is you don't want to, especially if you're playing away from home, you don't want to do anything that, if you're playing well and then someone flies into a tackle from them and then it lifts the crowd and then all of a sudden they start to play, and you just want to try and keep everything on an even keel and just keep the crowd silent if you can, without someone smashing into someone or some incident sparking up. I remember it with Arsenal and Spurs, which I have to talk about, is the derby, the main derby, and obviously Celtic, Rangers. But the fact is, you're always told, nothing stupid. Don't get the crowd going. That was one of the main things.
Something that turns the game into chaos, basically.
Yeah.
Although the managers themselves have a little bit of previous behind them, although much more verbal and very slightly spiky words, where Sam Allardyce fell out with Jurgen Klopp and called him a silly German or something like that.
Very unlike Sam.
You know, I'm just getting impressions. He doesn't like the credit and everything what they get without, for him, maybe doing enough. You know what I mean? You know, his game and the way his philosophy is, and you know, he gets a lot of stick for what he's done. And you're getting managers that come in and they get this instant love, however they're playing. And I think that he's somebody that feels a little bit peeved by that. And that's why it's going to be a tough game. I still think that Liverpool have too much, but it's one of those games that Sam will be doing his very best to get one over on Jurgen here.
I mean, it's a game in which there is lots of emotion riding. That, you know, there is a little bit of spike between the two managers. But also, in a practical sense, Sam Allardyce seems to have galvanised this Everton team.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it, you know, since it was announced he was coming in with the win over West Ham. Even they finally got a European win as well, given how bad that campaign has been. I think that's more of an emotional response. I mean, we have seen a bit more structure from Allardyce, but I think he does have quite a quick effect on teams. But I'm not sure it will be a quick effect to really influence this weekend, for it to be good enough to keep out that Liverpool team. I mean, even remember when he was at Palace and then Sunderland before that and keeping both up. It did take a little bit of time for them to get the proper Allardyce structure in place. I remember going to some of his early games with both clubs, and you could still see the gaps there. Now, fair enough, they're not as good as Everton, but I think it did emphasise that it does take him a little bit of time. I think it's still very, very early in his regime to put up something maybe strong enough for that.
Yeah, if the players are of a better standard than at the clubs where, like Palace and Sunderland, where he's tried to implement that structure on them, will they learn quicker? Will they adapt?
They will learn quicker. They'll get it quicker, and the two wins will give them a lot of confidence in what they're doing. They do look a lot more organised, but I think they're coming up against, for me, I would say, as well as City are doing, the best attacking force in the Premier League when they get it going. For me, you know, between them, Salah, who's been amazing, Salah, Mane, Coutinho, and Firmino. It's just fantastic when they get it right. And I just don't feel that Everton, with everything what they've done since Sam's got there, and the confidence, will be able to keep them out for the whole of that game. I just don't think they'll be able to.
It's almost similar kind of questions that we're asking ahead of the Manchester derby, that we are ahead of the Mersyside derby, which is when you have a front four, and he doesn't always play a front four, particularly in the league. Often it's 3 of the 4. But which one do you try and stop? Is there a key player that you stop first? That if you stop Coutinho, for example, you're going to quieten down the rest of them or take something out of their game?
No, because I think that all of them are, in their own right, are just very, very good individually, and they're playing brilliantly as a 4. And you know, how would you stop Mane? How would you stop Salah? Once they get going and they get on this kind of run, you can't stay. I don't know who from Everton is going to be able to stay with them. You know, at the back, Firmino for me is the best at 9.5. I think he's the best in the league at it. He gets it right. You've got Mane, you know, he'll come from the right, he'll come from the left. You know, you've got Salah, who's just been amazing. They're just on top form, Kells, and it would be very difficult to, even if you do stop one of them, to stop all of them.
There's a lot of great kind of one-touch football between them. It does feel like they're gone up a level, and just maybe they understand each other more. There's that almost telepathic link between them now, just because how quickly they're playing off each other.
And you talk about Firmino as a 9.5. They will take it in turns, all of the front four, depending on which of them are playing, to play in that number 9 role at different times during the game. Does that flexibility mean that Jurgen Klopp has the flexibility to play 3 of 4 out of them, because they have these fantastic statistics. They're all doing incredibly well in terms of their stats for the season.
Yeah.
But he is making the changes to his starting lineup at the same time.
Yeah, but let's say I do believe that when you look at those 4 players, Firmino is the one who's more suited to be in and around the 18-yard box in that circle at the top of the area.
Even though Salah's goal-scoring record is
yes, but
better,
he's coming in from left, right as well, Salah. I think it'll be better. You'll be wasting Salah, and I think you'll be wasting Mane if they spend too much time being the central kind of person, because they've got so much to give from the flanks.
When we talk about managers coaching and getting the best out of teams, we touched on it a little bit ahead of the Manchester derby about managers getting the best out of players by making their formation work for them, or by improving individual players. What about the improvement that we've seen in Mohamed Salah in terms of what we expected from him, which wasn't, we didn't have low expectations of him, but how much he's... What are you doing with your hands?
No, just...
You look like a squirrel. I was like, why? I thought it was some kind of secret code.
That's a single copy of the Salah.
What have you done with Mohamed Salah? What has Klopp done with Mohamed Salah?
I did a piece on this about 3 weeks ago, just looking into how Salah has improved. I mean, one thing a lot of people close to him say is that he's just more mature now. He's developing in the way the players do as they get to their prime, which he is. But what is particularly key and added to that is that he's just in a system that is almost completely maximises his best attributes. I mean, Klopp doesn't put any demands on him that kind of takes away from his game in any way, and he's probably given a certain licence in defensive work, but we can see the massive benefit.
I think when you hear that someone like Eden Hazard says he just didn't get the chance, and I think Miguel's right. He's somebody that he's more mature now. He's gone to Italy, and I'm sure that he was marked a lot tighter in Italy and everything, but he still was able, with that pace and the skill and the finishing, what you saw him do when he was playing for Roma. He's come here at a time in a team that, again, like Miguel says, is just perfect for him, without no defensive, what's the word I'm looking for, Kels? Defensive responsibilities. He could just get forward and just break and just cause teams havoc.
Actually, as a former striker, is there something in this idea that Salah, I guess, he's the top scorer in Premier League at the moment, but rather than being, say, kind of a more traditional striker like you were, or like even Harry Kane is, he gets so many of his goals actually arriving in the box. So many it seems different in that way now.
Well, that's the reason why when you're up there, when you're right up there, you do get the majority of chances come to you because you're in and around it. But like, there's some of the times when you're coming from deep. That's why Frank Lampard done so well. When you're coming from deep, if you time it perfectly, and I'm not saying that Salah's coming from as deep as that, but if you time it and come in at that, you'll get so many more chances. Then it depends on how many you can take. And as we saw with Frank Lampard, he took the majority of them. Mo Salah's doing the same thing. He's up in the areas where you can score. If he's not the furthest forward, getting one to tap in, he's just on the back, just coming in onto the back of it, and he's just having a fantastic season.
And they're all taking it in turns to be star player of the moment. Sadio Mane's had his turn. It might well come again because he's looking to become a player who scored in 3 successive derbies, the first player since Robbie Fowler to do that.
You'd have to say you'd have to fancy him. I think that Mo Salah has made the rest of the guys raise their game, and I think him in particular. I think that when you look at, I think it was maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, he was on the bench. There was a little bit of like, oh, what's going on with Mane? But what it's done, it's actually made him crank his game up a bit more. And I think that he's somebody that, when you look at what Everton have got and who's going to try and stop him, you'd have to fancy him to score again in this game.
Well, of course, from Everton's point of view, they're looking for some kind of stability under Sam Allardyce, having started the season under Ronald Koeman, then David Unsworth in caretaker charge, and now they have a permanent fixture. And Gylfi Sigurdsson says he's very quickly seen a steadying of the ship.
Everton reveal Sam Allardyce as their new manager.
I think he hasn't had many training sessions with the full squad because of the game on Wednesday and the game on the weekend. But he's definitely got the experience of Premiership football. He knows what he's doing. He's very aware of the stats for the teams and for the players. And I think he looks really well after the players to get the best out of them on a match day. It's the first game you kind of look at as an Everton player. So myself and I think all of the players are looking forward to the game, and If we can build on what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks, it would be great to continue that with another positive result on Sunday. We know how big this is for the people in the city, and it matters a lot for the fans that we get a good performance, hopefully leading into a good result.
Sigurdsson, looking for a good result under Sam Allardyce. We talked about the defensive responsibilities that we think he has to give to the side, the structure that he is going to add to the team. If they are going to get anything out of this game, though, they're probably going to need to have something more creative in there. Is that something that he needs to work on? Is that something that can come from that defensive base?
I think it will come from the defensive base and the confidence that comes from that when you know that your team are quite solid. And when you've got the quality, for me, I know they've got Wayne Rooney in there, but in respect of a player is the best. I think that in the team, I think Gylfi Sigurdsson is probably the best player in Everton's squad. And he's somebody that, in that number 10 area up there without no defensive responsibilities, when you saw some of the positions he had to take up under Koeman and Unsworth, you're thinking, what the hell's going on? What are you doing with that guy? When you free him up and let him go as far as he can just create and do stuff. He is devastating.
But it's a game where they need a bit of pace as well that he can play off, because given how open Liverpool's attack can be.
That's just... See what I'm saying, Miguel? He's the kind of person, you want him in and around those places, like, you know, the area and that. I'm not saying he's Kevin De Bruyne, but in that kind of position, he will open you up and he will hurt you. And that is what Sam Allardyce will have recognised, that I'm going to keep this team solid because I've got someone like Gylfi Sigurdsson who will create and will score goals for us.
And again, like Manchester United and Manchester City, Everton know that Liverpool are susceptible to set pieces and to free kicks.
Yeah, exactly. And even with that, I mean, you're saying he's no De Bruyne, which he obviously isn't, but he does have a quality delivery. And if that delivery is left with maybe kind of Lovren, who has struggled, say, in the Spurs game, with that kind of quality, then
yeah,
it could be where they catch Liverpool out.
Yeah.
So the potential to catch Liverpool out, if they are going to capitalise on where they are going to score goals, they're going to have to try and keep a clean sheet against this Liverpool attacking lineup that we've talked about. Have you seen defensive improvements under Sam Allardyce?
Yeah, there's more organisation at the back. You can see that they're more like a unit. I think that the midfield as well is more engaged. When you look even in this, so you can see the holding midfielders are in and around the areas where once the back four is sorted, they're in and around the area where they can get the ball and start going forward. Like in this particular instant here, you watch them get in there, watch the four of them, bang. That wasn't happening before. That was not happening. They weren't that organised. They were all over the place. You could see them here again, and then you could see Idris Gueye. They're all getting ready to come in, all getting ready to nick the ball. Look at that. There's nothing there for them to do. They was not doing that before, and it's so much more difficult for you when you're all over the place.
But there's a structure for them to fall back on, wasn't it? Before, especially under Unsworth, it was like there was nothing to fall back on. Once a goal went in, it was just kind of chaos took over.
And then you see what happens when they do win it. Now you've got Gylfi Sigurdsson in that area. Look, it's a great play from Calvert-Lewin, and then Gylfi Sigurdsson in and around the areas where he can hurt teams. And that is what Sam will do.
In terms of how the Everton fans have reacted to the appointment of Sam Allardyce, it hasn't exactly been overwhelming or glowing. But because of the results that they've had under him, because of the performances that they've seen under him, how far would a derby win go to his acceptance fully as an Everton manager?
Huge. Well, I think there's still maybe a sense that he's almost just a placeholder there rather than anything long term. But I suppose it would maybe maximise the respect. But it would also be in keeping what has very much been kind of... I've rarely seen a season for any one club that has involved so many different emotions. I mean, they went in thinking, right, maybe we spend so much, maybe we can go top four. Then it was a little bit unsettling what happened with Koeman. Went bad, got rid of him, and then there's suddenly the massive plummet. so to actually win a derby on the back of all that in such a short space of time, to see all these... But yeah, it would kind of consolidate his position.
You know, I think they are just desperate to get somebody that's going to save them right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen in a year's time. If he saves them, then they get a couple of signings that they want, and they start moving up the table and being where we expect Everton to be in and around 7th. I don't think it's going to be too long before they're starting to want that manager that's going to be more expansive.
Yeah.
I think right now they've got no choice. They have to love him, and that's how they're taking him. And they're like, okay, he'll save us, so we'll go from there. But I think that in another 18 months' time, when his contract finishes, they'll probably be looking for that marquee manager that they tried to get.
Is it also about a manager that can develop individual players to become better, particularly because they have this good youth system, this prolific youth system, and they have young players just waiting to come through?
I think that is something that they will probably, well, they should, if they're not, they should be thinking about the manager. Because like I say, at the moment, they're not in a position, Mig, where they can say, oh, we need a manager who's going to nurture our youngsters. They need to be in this league and they need to make sure that they survive in it. And I think that at some stage they'll probably get a manager that's going to help them to develop them. Because you look at Sam, and down the years, I'm not seeing too many people and too many youngsters that have come through Sam's teams. It's all about the established guys, experienced guys, and that's how he's built his reputation.
Which they will need this Sunday against Liverpool. We'll be getting right his predictions on that a little bit later on, as well as the Mersyside derby and as well as the Manchester derby. Big games for other sides in and around the top four. We'll look at Chelsea's prospects and those of Mauricio Pochettino's Spurs next. Hello, welcome back to Friday's Premier League today. Now, the champions Chelsea's title defence looked dead and buried not so long ago, but Antonio Conte's side are not giving up their crown without a fight. They head to West Ham this weekend, so is this a must-win game?
Yeah, every game, we have to try to win, and I think it's normal. It's normal every game, but for sure tomorrow it won't be easy against West Ham, and this London derby, and we must pay great attention. Then we all know that on Sunday there will be a game, a derby in Manchester. Yeah, we all know this. And the last game against Manchester City, I saw Manchester City. They struggled a lot before to win the game against them. We must pay great attention, and we must be focused.
Well, we're asking this about a lot of games. For December, it seems ridiculous. But already, because City are stretching away, is it a must-win game for Chelsea?
I think it is a must-win game, and it's the early game. So they have to put pressure on City, because at some stage, someone's going to have to try and get hold of City. Otherwise, you know, because if City go and beat Manchester United, then it starts to get into a situation where no one's going to be able to catch them. Someone, somewhere along the line, has got to start applying a bit of pressure to City, so as the players will be going into these games thinking, right, we've got to make sure that we're right on it and we win this game and that. And the more you're winning underneath them, the more pressure's on City. That's when we'll see how they react.
Do we, if they do win tomorrow, if potentially City don't win against Manchester United and the gap comes 8 points between City and Chelsea, do we then think maybe they're still in the title mix, Chelsea?
I would still think it's a little bit too much of a gap, even though it's the gap to United now, who we're hoping can put in some sort of title challenge for an entertainment purpose. But I don't know, I mean, it would require basically Chelsea to recreate the sort of run they went on last season that City are recreating now. And I think given Europe and everything, unless he kind of really bolsters that squad with about 4 players in January, I'm not sure it's in them this season. I think there's just a few too many demands on the squad.
Yeah, a lot of demands on the squad, but we're seeing Cesc Fabregas playing it differently from how he's played before. But I've lost count now of the number of ex-players who say I could just watch him. I could just go to a live game and just follow him around the pitch.
He's fantastic. If you get him into that situation where you've got Kante and whoever it is next to Kante, whether it's Drinkwater or Bakayoko, whoever, and let him play in that top of that diamond, and just go wherever he wants. You can't give him that kind of space. He's another one of those. He's like De Bruyne. Wherever he is on the pitch, he will hurt you. And he finds where he's got all that space. When he winds up, it's getting there. It's that's the problem you've got. That is what's going to happen to you. And so he's somebody, again, that you just have to get tighter to. Because when there's people, when they're tight, he'll do that. You know, no matter where he is on the pitch, Fabregas will hurt you, and that is what people have to watch out for now. He just pops up into those positions.
It also feels like as well, I know Bakayoko's come in for a little bit of criticism recently, but the energy of Bakayoko and Kante means that Fabregas has been left to kind of just create a bit more. He's not taxing on his own.
Again, you see that. He gets the ball in situations where, you know, the people are not tight enough, and it's just trouble. You know, great delivery. He's somebody that, for me, he has to play, especially if you want to play with 2 holding midfielders. He's the one. He's the perfect person.
Is it about, as we've said, it's about giving him the players with the energy around him, but is it also about Fabregas learning to use his energy more efficiently, to play the game in a I know we saw him down, sort of down on the right wing or whatever, but is it about him using the space more efficiently
Yeah, because
as well?
what you're seeing with him now, with his experience now, is somebody that is utilising his time on there. Every time he gets it, he's doing something, very positive with it. He's really doing something positive with it, and he's causing them problems. And the better Hazard and Morata are playing and moving in front of him, the better he's going to play, because he sees the passes.
Is there a better long-range passer, actually, on bar De Bruyne, maybe? Because he's kind of a different sort of passer.
I think, you know something, what it is that once he winds up, it gets there. I don't think he's... Like De Bruyne, it's the same as like you used to watch Stevie Gerrard. When he winds up to hit one, you normally think it's going to get there. I don't think they waste... You don't waste long ones like you see Rooney.
Yeah.
You don't see Rooney winding up and it doesn't go nowhere near.
No Hollywoods.
Yeah. They're not Hollywood. They're not Hollywood. When they wind up in those areas, they get to where they're going.
They take on West Ham. I mean, you know, that's the first of this run of 6 games where you could see potentially Chelsea maybe being able to close the gap on Manchester City, even slightly.
You look at those, Miguel. You can't tell me that a Chelsea side playing like they cannot win all those games. They can win all of those games, and if they can do that, then you know that City will have to be winning all theirs as well, and that is how you start to apply the pressure.
That's why I said slightly, because I was sort of imagining that City potentially could win all their games.
They could do, but they will have to. If Chelsea win all those, then City then have to.
But it starts against a West Ham side who haven't had the bounce that they would have hoped for under David Moyes, as far as the results are concerned anyway. Have we seen anything in the performances, do you think?
Last week, I suppose, against... I mean, to be honest, I think... I'd say, 99% of the people going in to watch that match, I think, thought this could be a record score for City.
Yeah, I do.
6+ you went for, yeah.
I wouldn't have. I was thinking the same. Here we go. This is going to be an exhibition. But, you know, they were dogged. I think they did as well as anyone has in frustrating City and again, forcing them so late. So that is encouraging. They probably can't afford to go quite so defensive against Chelsea.
No.
So it'll require maybe something different.
I think they were a lot more organised, and I think that when you go to City, you have to be, because if they were playing like you've seen West Ham play a few games ago, they would have got absolutely hammered, and that is why I thought they were going to concede so many goals. But to be fair, the back four and the three in front of them, even Mikel Antonio was coming back and making an extra player as well. They made it very, very difficult for Manchester City, and I think that's how they've got to approach all the games, at home and away, and I think they're going to have to do that at home against Chelsea as well, because Chelsea are going to have the majority of the ball.
To be fair to Moyes as well, I think when he was at his best as a manager at Everton, the one thing you'd always rely on with a Moyes side was that these are going to be hard to beat.
Yeah.
And that was something that, you know, started to disappear at United, and then at Sunderland here, and maybe a little bit towards his last kind of 1 or 2 seasons at Everton.
Yeah.
Whereas the game last week against West Ham was kind of a recall to that. I remember hearing one of the arguments of why they appointed Moyes, because they feel he's a manager now who he himself believes he's got something to prove again.
Yeah.
So maybe this is starting to bring that out a bit, and last week, even though they lost the game at the end, but it will offer a bit of encouragement that way.
And it's also happened that he's had this really difficult run of fixtures. I mean, it ends with Arsenal, then it starts to get a little bit easier for David Moyes. But they've also had injuries as well, particularly in defence.
Yeah, and that can be disruptive as well. And what you want to do when you're in that kind of rut, what they're in, they need to win a game. You want the best players back. You want your best defenders in there, and then you also need the people like Lanzini's of this world. You know, you need Koyates, you need Andy Carroll, you need Hernandez to come back. You need them to come back, and they literally have to hit the ground running, because I think that West Ham will start to run out of time. And then what you don't want to get into as well is that a manager that's only got a 6-month contract, and the players, you know what I mean? I'm not saying they're going to clock off, but they're not bothered about him so much because they're thinking about who's coming next. That starts happening. So they've got to start hopefully picking up some points.
And they start against a Chelsea side who are looking to mount, finally, a strong defence of their title. It's been a long time coming around for them. We'll take a look at Spurs-Stoke a little bit later on. But we'll talk a little bit, and we'll hear from Pochettino maybe later on if it gets into the building. For Tottenham, though, to be in 6th place, to have challenged for the league title over the last couple of seasons, and to fall off the pace in the way that they have, is that worrying for them, do you think?
A little bit. All the more so because it does mimic a problem from the last 2 seasons, and I think it was at this stage last year, maybe it was a little earlier last year, because it comes out of Kane's injury around October, but they had this kind of really pronounced dip, and they went out of Europe early, which I suppose one consolation this year. They've topped their group, And again, I think it's actually. I mean, there's been this kind of debate about Spurs, whether they kind of, they bottled the title in 2016 or they only put on pressure last year. But it was actually the run-in that cost them. It was actually earlier in the season when they dropped so many points in both those campaigns. Because we've already seen they can go on runs after Christmas. So I think it was concerning that they haven't addressed that issue. But also, actually, something that Pochettino brought up about 2 weeks ago, actually just before this run got really bad, he mentioned how all their physical stats are actually at top at the moment because, and he puts down to the bigger Wembley pitch, and actually pointed to Jesus beside him, his assistants. It's up to Jesus now to kind of Jesus Perez to make sure this doesn't happen, to keep our stats high. So you do wonder, could this have an effect later on in the season? I think it is a concern in that way.
It's interesting that you bring that point up, because actually if you compare them at this stage last season to this, there's very little in it. Is the difference this time around, Righty, that the opponents are stronger, the opposition are stronger than they were last time around?
Not only that, Kels, they are stronger, but I think that when you consider, like, Rose has been out, they had Wanyama, Dembele and Kyle Walker. That's 4 players right there that are no longer, not in there. That's going to disrupt you to a certain amount, to a certain extent. And then you look at the players this season, Dele Alli not playing really well this season, Harry Kane's still doing what he does, Eriksen in and out. But when I think, and then you throw into the mix, people want to beat Spurs because Spurs are now in the top 6, top 4, top 6, and people are going there to Wembley as well. So that kind of ramps up the pressure on them as well. And saying to these players, right, we want to see what you've got about you, because we're going to put you under the kind of pressure that you get put under when you're challenging. And I think that at the moment they're not answering the questions.
And that's in the same way with Guardiola, you mentioned with Owen earlier. A lot has been said about Spurs now, so there's that praise about them. So that, I suppose, will create kind of, well, if you are that good, let's see it.
Let's see you do it. And the teams are putting them under pressure, putting individuals under pressure, and they're not coming up with the goods.
Is that happening to individual players as well? Because we've seen a drop-off in the form of Dele Alli. Every week we're looking for reasons why, and this run of below-par performances continues. What's your take on it, Miguel?
To be honest, actually, I was looking it up as well the other day. We were saying the exact same thing last season, in that when Kane went...
Well,
we're
nothing if not repetitive.
Even on the writing side of it. It was being said last year, though, that, remember, when Kane was out, that none of Spurs' usual kind of players behind him were stepping up in the way they did later in the campaign. So it is a bit of a worry for Pochettino that is being repeated again.
So Tottenham take on Stoke. We'll get Righty's predictions on that a little bit later on. We'll also get his prediction on the Manchester derby, which is probably the game, almost certainly, the game of the weekend. And we're joined now by former Manchester United captain Gary Neville. Gary, we'll talk about the game itself in just a second. First, though, in the build-up to this one, you're at Manchester City's training ground. You know, you're there in the press conference room. You're around the city. How excited are you?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that if this game was between 2 teams that were 2 or 3 points apart, I think we could pretty much spell maybe a drab affair on Sunday, where both teams might sort of be a little bit more defensive. But I think United have to win. I always think when you're chasing a team and they're so far in front of you that you can't ask all your opponents to go and beat them and do you a favour if you're not going to do it yourself. I think United have to see this as an opportunity to take City off track. So I think that adds the spice to the fixture in the sense of United having to win. It did absolutely the same thing last weekend against Arsenal, which made it a fantastic game because United were far more on the front foot. And the feeling in the city is good. United fans are a little bit worried, thinking that, you know, Pep and City are going to come there and sort of play them off the park. But that's a good tension to have, I think, going into a derby, that there's sort of that feeling of excitement. It's a good place to be.
Gareth, it's Righty. What's it called?
What's what called?
No, I was going to say to him.
What's your name?
Yeah, Gareth. I didn't know if they told him I'm in the house. I wanted to say, Gal, in respects of City, we know what City are going to do. But Man United, what can Manchester United do, Gal, that is going to push City back and get City on the back foot? I know we've got the height and the set piece, but what are Man United going to do? Because I believe, too, they have to win the game.
I don't think we're going to see anything different than what you've just mentioned. I think it will be counter-attack and set pieces, but what United's counter-attack with Martial, Rashford, Lukaku, Lingard, it is a good counter-attack. So whereas I've seen City play twice in the last couple of weeks against Huddersfield and West Ham, there was definitely opportunities for Huddersfield and West Ham to counter-attack, but they didn't have the quality to spring out. United do. The big loss for United is obviously Pogba. I think what Pogba does, particularly in big games when United are deep, he transfers the ball out of defence into attack quickly because he beats people, and he would have caused problems to Silva and De Bruyne in terms of them defensively. He would have been able to run past them, he'd be able to beat them with the ball, so it's a big loss for United. So I think they're going to have to try and get it into Lukaku's feet, and then Lingard or Rashford or Martial, whichever one plays, will have to join quickly. And then set pieces is huge. Absolutely huge. I think that ultimately United will think that they will get set pieces in the game. City are, I wouldn't say terrible, but they're really poor. I mean, watching them last week against West Ham, every time West Ham got a corner, even at Huddersfield the week before they conceded, Southampton, they look all over the place, City. They just haven't got the height to be able to cope. So I think that, to me, is the main focus for United. They have to, Pep won't change. United will be without the ball for 60-70% of the match. It has to be about probably making sure you take your chance on the counter-attack and set pieces.
How do they stop City, though, Gary? Where on the pitch do they need to stop these attacks? Because they can start right back with the goalkeeper.
I'd say that ultimately I would just focus on, I mean, it's dangerous to focus on one or two players, but I would just focus on Silva and De Bruyne. When I watch City play, their rhythm is through Silva and De Bruyne, their assists are through Silva and De Bruyne, the big moments in the matches are through those two. I think that what I've seen in the last couple of weeks is that Silva and De Bruyne are failing to get the space between defence and midfield of, say, Huddersfield, of West Ham. What they're then starting to do is drop a little bit deeper and go a little bit wider. And West Ham and Huddersfield have sat there thinking, we're okay. De Bruyne's got the ball 40 yards from goal, he's a little bit wide. I'm okay, he's not in between my line, he's not behind me, I'm fine, he's not going to shoot from there. But you saw his ball he played in against West Ham last week. United have to make sure that, I think they could man-mark them both. I think Herrera could go and man-mark one of them, and don't know who else will play for United in midfield. Lingard could get against, say, Silva, and Herrera could go and play against De Bruyne. I cannot think Jose will want to allow them to play. They have to stop them two playing for rhythm and possession, but also for assists and their key passes. So I think, for me, in terms of stopping City, you've got to stop it at source. I don't think you should worry if Company or Otamendi have got the ball or the goalkeeper. It's not a problem. They're not going to hurt you. I think the two in midfield that will always hurt you are those two, and they have to make sure that they stop the spacing behind, but then when they drop deeper, which they will, and they have done in the last couple of weeks, they get against them.
You talked about the importance of Lukaku, right? He's been saying you don't feel he's quite as sharp as he could be. How important is it if Manchester United get those few chances that I know he scored in the Champions League in midweek, but that he's just on it. He's absolutely there.
I still think when he came to United, he was brought in for two reasons. The main reason being United dropped a lot of points last season against the teams at home, and I think he's actually, to be fair, succeeded in converting those games that you think United should win into victories. The big question, though, was around his performances in big matches, and everyone at the start of the season, including myself, said, well, at Everton, it's always going to be a struggle to play in big matches because obviously they're not as good a team, but when he gets around quality players, he'll deliver in big matches at Old Trafford. I've still yet to see that, and I think he needs a big performance in a big game where he takes it by the scruff of the neck. One thing I would say is that when I've seen Otamendi and Company, you can get at them. You can get at them. I mean, if you're a centre-forward, if Wrighty was playing against them, you'd fancy your chances. Yep. Company's been probably the best centre-half in the league in the last 5-6 years, but he's now not the player he was. And I think Lukaku one-on-one against those two can hurt them badly. I saw West Ham cause big problems last week for Otamendi. It was Mangala last week. The week before, Huddersfield. Otamendi's rash. I think Lukaku, it's made for him on Sunday, because in other games, in the big games, he probably, to be fair, can get drowned out a little bit. City will go forward, they'll attack with both fullbacks. He has a chance, he'll get one-on-one against them, and he needs a big game. He needs a big game performance, Lukaku.
And Gary, Jose Mourinho said it's not a two-horse race, but is this the game in which Manchester United could stay in the title race?
It'll be a one-horse race if they lose on Sunday. United have to win. United have to win. I genuinely think United have to win. I don't think you can look at anybody else and think that. I mean, Chelsea have obviously, City have gone to Chelsea and won. United have to damage City. They have to make them convert what Huddersfield, Southampton and West Ham started to do, which was get close. United have to take them over the line, and then it'll give the others that feeling, oh, you can do this against City, you can beat City, you can get at them. And I think that at the moment, there's no one with really a belief that feels they can, get at City and beat them. And I think United have to do it on Sunday. Jose has to go and win the game.
Yep.
Gary, thank you so much for joining us from behind enemy lines as well.
Thank you.
Gary Neville, of course, former Manchester United captain. Let's hear now from the Manchester United manager, Jose Mourinho.
Now this is a football match, an important football match, where I wish that everything goes well in relation to the fans. You know, I think in the right way, if taken in the right way, the derbies are a beautiful thing. You know, same city, different colors, friends, they support different colors, even under the same roof. In some families, they disagree on the passion for the colors. I think if taken in the right way, I think it's a beautiful thing. So I hope that tomorrow, before the game, you have a city full of color, red and blue, and after the game the same. And during the game, that's a football match where everybody wants to win.
A football match that everybody wants to win, a match that Manchester United, everybody who's joined us, Owen, Hargreaves, you guys, Gary Neville says Manchester United have to win. This is the week that we finally see expansive, exciting, devil-may-care Jose Mourinho side, don't we?
Well, his mood there was the happiest I've seen in
for a long time. Yeah.
Still quite low-key.
Yeah, still low-key, but you could see the boyish mischief to him. Whether that translates into kind of a more a braver attacking performance, I'm not sure. I still think, underscoring it all, if United step out against City, they could do themselves real damage because the amount of space to leave in behind. You know, De Bruyne and Silva picking passes for that pace. So that's why it's...
We've all picked out as well, everybody's picked out the absence of Pogba as such a key factor in this game. How difficult must it be for Jose Mourinho to approach this match constantly thinking, if only I had Pogba. My plan 3 weeks ago was to play Paul Pogba to do this, and to let that go and say, right, I can only set up the players that I have.
I tell you, for me, you're bang on there, and I think that Gary hit on something as well. That it wouldn't surprise me if he'd done it, and if he had Pogba, he wouldn't need to, but to try and stifle De Bruyne and Silva, because they, like he said, they are the main heartbeat and flow of that team. If you can disrupt them, and we've seen that they don't need a lot of space to cause a team problems, I feel that they might have to go that way. And he looks like he's got a twinkle in his eye, like he might do something. He's going to do something tomorrow that we're not expecting, and you know, it wouldn't surprise me if he'd done it.
Given how much coverage there's been ahead of this game, I'm be amazed if it was something that hasn't been mentioned at some stage anywhere. But Jose Mourinho, as you say, absolutely capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at what you've gone for this weekend. You've gone for Chelsea to beat West Ham 2-0 at the London Stadium. That's the lunchtime kickoff tomorrow. Just too good for West Ham?
Eden Hazard always causes them a lot of problems. On the break, Chelsea seem to be too good for West Ham every time, and then I think Morata as well will probably score.
Burnley and Watford pretty much exceeding expectations this season. You think they'll be fairly evenly matched at Turf Moor?
I do, yeah, but now I'm feeling like Burnley might do it, but it's too late. I'm going to go with 1-1. You know what I mean? I always do this.
And then you look at them and you think, what idiot put those predictions together? And then you think, Palace a 2-2 draw against Bournemouth?
Yeah, I'm going with Palace because there's a steady progression with Palace.
No, you're not going with Palace, you're going for a 2-2 draw.
No, I mean in respect to the way they're playing. Getting the draw, because I think Bournemouth is a game that Bournemouth themselves will feel like they can get something out of.
Brighton's defence to hold out Huddersfield and get a 0-0 draw.
Good stuff in that one for some reason.
In that game, Swansea to get beaten 2-0
by
West Brom. This is dangerous times for Paul Clement, isn't it?
I think it is, and some of the things you're hearing coming out there, he doesn't seem very happy with certain things, and I don't know what's going to happen for him in January, but I think that West Brom with Pardew, with the time he's had to spend with them, I think they're going to be too much for Swansea down there.
Tottenham 2-1 win over Stoke to get back to some kind of form, do you think?
Because they have to.
They've really struggled this season?
Liverpool, for me, I think Liverpool's attack are the best. I know that City have got De Bruyne and Silva backing up some great players in Sane and Jesus, Aguero and Sterling, but I just think that these four can cause this a lot of problems.
And for Manchester City, you think they're going to find life a bit tougher than you thought they would against Huddersfield and West Ham, where you had 5+ and 6+ goals, just the 2 for them this week against Man United?
It's another one. I should have gone for a draw, but I want to see someone win it. Ideally, I would have loved to see Man United win it, but I would have gone Man United if Pogba was playing. But I'm going to go with City.
So what you're saying is, if anyone's going to win it, it's going to be Manchester City?
Yes.
What do you think, Miguel? If you had to predict which way the Manchester derby was going to go?
Yeah, I think I'd go City to get that record, 14 in a single season, and being just about
14 successive wins in one single Premier League season. It's an extraordinary achievement. They've already equalled the record, of course, but to stand on their own, they will have to win in that Manchester derby. So the Liverpool derby or Mersyside derby and the Manchester derby, part of a bumper weekend of Premier League football this weekend. Thank you very much to Righty. We'll be back same time next week. Miguel, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to leave you with a little something to whet your appetite ahead of the big derby weekend. Bye-bye.